Okay, so like I said in the Kung Fu Panda video, Clay and I immediately watched Kung Fu Panda 2 right after. So, hear my thoughts on that movie. Also, like I said at the end of the Kung Fu Panda video, it's a movie I really like, but, excuse me, I don't think I liked it quite as much as the first one. This is my second time watching Kung Fu Panda 2. The first time I had watched it, I actually want to say also might have been like right after watching the first one or like a couple days after watching the first one. I could be wrong about that. But I remember watching it and thinking, wow, I like this movie a lot more. I think it's a lot funnier, partly because, they're not constantly bullying Po throughout a good chunk of the movie. It's like, I think it's a lot funnier. I like the villain a lot more. It's like, I like Tai Lung, but his defeat for the longest time, always kind of rubbed me the wrong way, where I don't really feel like that was the case with Shen. While Tai Lung was pretty interesting, I was like, Shen to me is actually a really interesting character, and fuck, he has such a great design. I love this albino peacock, and when he, shows off his tails, they just look so cool. He has such a striking, silhouette. It's so freaking cool, man. I love his fighting style. He has this really big spear, then he has all these knives, stuck in his feathers and stuck in his tails. You don't really see him fighting a lot because he's, got droogs and cannons. I love that he's got his giant weapon, this big-ass cannon, and then they break it, and then he reveals that, no, I have several of these. I don't just have one. That would be stupid. Which he doesn't even say that, but that's kind of the implication. Yeah, I have more than one. What the fuck did you think I was planning? That makes a lot of sense. I like this dude. A piece of shit, but I like him. I remember liking, I liked the animation, this looks very good. Remember they're doing the 2D segments and Poe's flashbacks, they're really good. It's a really emotional story. It's actually, pretty freaking dark. Man, this movie is great. And rewatching it, I would say, yeah, pretty much all of that still applies. It is not like I rewatched it and I'm like, this movie kind of ass. No. Take all of that, copy and paste it. Movie is great. One of my favorite elements that I got the first time I watched it as well, I think I got it by the time I finished the first movie, is Shen's prophecy that you will be defeated by a warrior of black and white, or a black and white warrior, however they technically phrase it. Which Shen interpreted as, oh, it's a panda! Let me go kill all the pandas real quick so no one can stop me. So we went, massacred the village, Po ended up escaping and surviving, doesn't remember any of this, which leads to, surprisingly, something kind of funny, is, as fucked up as that sounds, it's when he, finally meets Shen face to face, and Shen and the soothsayer are both expected, so, you've come to take your revenge. And Po has no idea who the fuck this guy is. He just knows that, yeah, this is the asshole that, killed a kung fu master trying to take over the world. And he's like, yeah, I'm here to avenge that guy. I mean, I didn't really know him, but he was cool. He didn't deserve that. That's all you've come to avenge? Really? You sure you're not getting the bigger picture here, buddy? This is pretty funny to me. I love how Shen is, practicing this speech for when he meets Po, and then when Po finally climbs up the stairs, because another dude helped him, which of course made me think of Final Fantasy VII. But, he gets so, Panda, we meet you hey, yeah, how's it going? And then keeps talking to the other dude. He's just so shocked to be blown off, and he just has this look on his face. Hey, got a great laugh out of me. Gary Oldman plays Shen, and he plays him to perfection. He's manages to be both, not both, because I'm going to say more than two things. He's really interesting, he can be really funny, he can be really intimidating, and sometimes it's literally all at the same time. It's so good. He is... I think it is fair to say Shen is my favorite thing in the movie. His design is great, his voice acting is great, his writing is perfect. I love this. But the thing I love most is, yes, while it is very easy to see that, the black and white warrior that defeated him is Po. And it's this was essentially your fault. You caused the thing that happened. Yeah, it's one of the philosophies in the first movie, which is not something I mentioned in the last video, because it's not as big as the other ones. You know, there are no accidents, and there is no secret ingredient. Is, as Oogway says, a man, I don't think he says it like that because there's no humans, but, a man often meets his destiny on the road he takes to prevent it. Oedipus Rex, case in fucking point right there, man. Is that, yes, Shen, by trying to, get rid of the black and white warriors, you essentially, you got this one to where he needed to be, and he was raised and learned, well, he wasn't raised to learn Kung Fu, but he ended up learning Kung Fu, came to stop you, this was all your fault, blah, 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 blah. But he is the black and white warrior, and it was your mistakes that led to him destroying you. I've always thought that the black and white warrior that would destroy Shen is Shen himself. Because he's an albino peacock, which is so fucking cool. But, he is black and white. And with his tails, he can say a little bit of red all over, too. But, yeah. He's the one that got himself exiled because of what he did. His parents saw, they're like, no, we love you, you're our son, but we can't look after you anymore. What you did was too terrible. Yes, Po is the one who ends up destroying the ships because he's deflecting the cannonballs that Shen is firing. And even as this is happening, it is Shen who gives the order to keep firing. Po gives him a chance at the end. It's not necessarily a, hey, there's still a chance you can be redeemed, because you kind of can't at that point. But he is like, no, you can let go. You can let go of your pain. You can find peace. The past isn't what matters. It's what you choose now. Which I don't know if I ended up mentioning the Oogway's line about how the now is a gift. That's why they call it the present. But that's another thing that's always kind of stuck with me, too, from the first movie. But Shen in that moment says, no, I am not going to accept my defeat. I am not going to try to move on. I'm just going to fight you right here and now. The fight does not last super long. He ends up cutting a cord. So again, his fault. That leads to a cannon falling. And Shen looks at it and does not move out of the way and accepts the moment. Excuse me. All the things that led up to Shen's demise were his own fault. He is the black and white warrior that would destroy him. And I love that. I feel like that's so interesting. And I like how the movie never says that. So I feel like you can watch it and say, no, it's Po. It's very clearly supposed to be Po. But I feel like the movie's a little smarter than that. And it's something I really appreciate. Not to say that if it was Po, it would be dumb. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like this is just a more clever idea. And with how good this movie is and how good the other movie is, the movie earns to me that benefit of the doubt of no, I think this is really clever, and I think it's really good at doing those kinds of ideas. Shifu is just not in the movie. I don't feel like I really because, okay, in the last movie, I was just this is my experience with it, and occasionally would kind of also talk about it. I love Shifu in the first movie. I think he's hilarious. He's an asshole, but I love this just old grizzly bastard who just kind of hates everything, and you get why by the end of the movie. Here he's just not really in it, and I feel it's not that I'm man, the movie is ass without him, but I missed him. I really did. Tigress definitely felt like a more important character in her relationship with Po. I enjoyed that a lot. The thing about this movie that's really interesting to me, and especially comparing the two Shrek movies, I mean, there's two more, of course, but Shrek 1 and Shrek 2, and then KFP 1 and 2. Shrek 1 and Shrek 2 feel like they're the same kind of movie. Now, it's not me trying to say that, oh, they feel rehashed or the same thing beat for beat, because no, Shrek 1 is a very different movie from Shrek 2 in terms of, the events that happens and the growth of the characters. But Shrek 1 is a cynical, satirical take at fairy tales, and Shrek 2 is something very similar. I feel like these movies are both trying to get across the same kind of vibe. I don't get that with Kung Fu Panda and Kung Fu Panda 2. They are both martial arts movies, but Kung Fu Panda 1 feels like this is a movie that is all about the philosophy of martial arts, but there's also some cool fight scenes. Kung Fu Panda 2 is an action movie that is a lot more just about, here's a bunch of cool fights. Excuse me. Because I noticed, while watching 1, there's some training scenes and like maybe 3 fights. This movie was constant. It's here's a fight, 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 and they're all bangers. Like I love that shit. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say like, oh man, this movie, it's just a dumb action movie. Like they took the heart and soul away, because they most certainly did not. There was a lot of heart and a lot of soul in this film. But I think what I like about, I think the philosophy of the first movie hits me a little harder than when this movie is kind of doing its philosophy. I probably do like the fight. I don't know which movie I prefer when it comes to its action. I might say 2 just because there's more of it. But man, when it's in 1, it's really good too. 2 definitely, I think, has the stronger villain. I feel like 1 just feels better paced, like better balanced. I think part of that is because the second one is almost all action. It's like action, quiet, emotional moment, which is good, but I feel like the balance can be a little off, but I feel like it's better handled in 1. There's some moments in 2 where the pacing feels a little wonky, like it's a little too fast. Not by a major degree. I'm like, wow, this does not work. But it's like, oh, kind of like when the climax was starting. I was like, oh, it's already time for the climax? Okay, it's not bad. I just like, all right, I guess we're doing this. But it is a movie I really like. I think it is easily one of DreamWorks' best movies up to this point. Yes, for me it is in that category of the Shrek films, Prince of Egypt, Puss in Boots 2, Kung Fu Panda 1. I really, really like it. That's not true. I love it. I really do sincerely love it. I think, is there anything else I really want to say about it? I feel like there's something, I guess one other thing is I really like the wolf boss. There's a couple lines where he's talking about how Poe, it's not just like, hey, it's a fat panda. It's more like, look at him. He looks so cuddly and snuggly and soft. Like, is he flirting with him? Is he flirting with him? Like, that's interesting. I wasn't sure that was a thing. All right, I kind of dig it, I guess. But, yeah, Kung Fu Panda 2, it's real good.